I'm aware of some of them who were given the opportunity to even video call with their spouse and children in Hamburg, in Germany, in other places. I'm aware how they were fed from papaya, etc. I'm aware that, and so when we received these allegations, of course, we engaged the police and found out that all these allegations were unfounded. The only thing that we found quite unfortunate was that there were two persons whose names had been inadvertently left out of the data that was brought to our office to prepare the charge sheet, and so they went beyond the 48-hour rule, and but I think there was 10 hours 53 minutes after the 48 hours before our attention was drawn to the fact, and we quickly arranged them before court. And even that, we have condemned that, and thankfully the police is also not sitting on its oars. They have there's been complaints that has been launched with PIPs for investigation to see what happened that this inadvertence occurred, and of course to hold the persons who by whose inadvertence this occurred to also to be held to account.
The Deputy Attorney General has asked anyone who believes that the protesters were targeted to present evidence to that effect.
Can only prosecute based on the evidence that we have. But if people have additional evidence that indicate that beyond the 54 other people also committed offense, we are very happy to receive those evidence. But you cannot just go to court for purpose of going to court. Now, the converse to it is that it should be to the benefit of those who are claiming that people have merely been targeted without evidence. You know what that means? It means that they will be acquitted. It means that our prosecution will not stand. And so, based on the evidence available to us, we have the reasonable opinion that those persons have been rightfully arrested and have been and prosecutions have rightfully been commenced against them. Right. If people feel that they were targeted and there were more, we are happy to receive that information from the general public. And of course, if people also feel that they've merely been targeted for targeting sake, then the response to that is that then that inures to the benefits of, a possible acquittal of those persons. But until then, until the court makes that determination, I think it's premature, and it is a flawed assertion to make that these persons have been targeted. Okay.
Well, more on that subsequently. Let's turn to some other stories this evening. The West African Examinations Council is threatening that all invigilators implicated in violations during the recently concluded West African Examinations Certificate, that's WASI, will face legal accountability. According to WAEC, some invigilators have already faced fines, while others await legal proceedings. This comes after the 2024 WAEC examinations, where a total of 460,611 candidates participated, representing 1,003 schools across 1,000 centers. The examination process involved extensive monitoring by WAEC staff, security personnel, and other stakeholders, including the Ghana National Association of Teachers, NAT. While most candidates and invigilators adhered to the examination regulations, WAEC reported several instances of malpractice. These included photocopying and distributing of answers, smuggling of unauthorized materials, and the presence of mobile phones in exam halls. Despite these challenges, WAEC commended the overall management of the examination process. Well, joining us via Zoom now is Director of Public Affairs at WAEC, that's GHOne Kapi, to speak more on these developments. Good evening to you. Thank you for joining us here on News Tonight. First of all, can you paint a picture of the status of investigations as we speak? GHOne Kapi, I was asking what the status of investigations are currently. GHOne Kapi, that's the Director of Public Affairs at WAEC, joining us via Zoom. Now, Mr. Kapi, I was asking, as it stands, what's the status of these investigations into the malpractice during the examination process? If you could first of all give some clarification into what the status of these investigations are currently. Looks like we're having a bit of a challenge with GHOne Kapi, the Director of Public Affairs at WAEC. We'll certainly re-engage him shortly to get insight as to what the status of these investigations are, and of course the impact of this, how it's likely to affect the results of the students. To reach GHOne Kapi there. Let's return to our earlier story regarding the protest, the Galamsey protest, and we had the Deputy Attorney General, that's Dinah Asonaba Dapa, address the story, saying and engage with Noah Adamte, one of the lawyers of the protesters. Good evening to you, Noah. I believe you're hearing me. Thank you for speaking with us here on News Tonight. Now, you've heard these claims and responses by the Deputy Attorney General. What's your reaction to this?
Yeah, so I find that explanation a little problematic because the state and its agencies cannot simply say that it was a mere oversight as a justification for keeping the arrested persons beyond 48 hours. That is a clear violation of their rights. And as the Attorney General, the Deputy Attorney General herself just mentioned, that persons who allege a breach of rights should put the evidence forward. This is the evidence. The evidence is that people were arrested and they were supposed to be arraigned before court in 48 hours. And the state failed, the state through its agencies failed to respect the constitutionally guaranteed rights of these people and kept them beyond the 48 hours. But let's look at the plausibility of the justification provided by the Deputy Attorney General and the arguments that we make as the reason for that oversight that led to keeping the arrested persons beyond 48 hours. We know that the law is that when you arrest a person, you must grant the person bail or release the person on bail, whether with or without conditions. Look at when the people were arrested, and then look at the timelines in their arraignment. You can clearly see that there was a deliberate tactic on the part of the state to inconvenience the people close to the 48-hour requirement under the law. So those who were arrested on Sunday were kept and only brought to court around 1 p.m. or 2 p.m. on Tuesday, which is almost close to the 48 hours. The state was deliberately trying to maximize the possible inconvenience that will occasion the persons who were arrested. And it is through that deliberate attempt to cause that inconvenience that they lost track of those persons who have been arrested who have been kept beyond 48 hours, which led to their violation of the rights of these people. So this is not one that we should just treat as a mere oversight. This is one that the state must actually provide a real justification that satisfies the wrongful detention of the people beyond the constitutionally guaranteed time.
The Deputy Attorney General's justification isn't weighty enough. She said that these two persons were kept for an additional, 10 hours and 53 minutes. And she specifically linked it to the documentation issues that also led to their detainment for a prolonged period. And you say it's a deliberate attempt or tactic of the state. What specific explanation are you expecting from the state and stakeholders as it pertains to the reason that there was this delay?
No, so let's look at that argument again before I speak about what we are expecting from the state.
Right.
There were people who were arrested on Sunday and presented on Tuesday. Now, at the time those who were being presented, there were other people who were also in custody at that time, who could have also been arraigned before court on that same Tuesday.
Right.
That wouldn't have breached the 48-hour rule provided under our law. So the state deliberately brought those who were arrested on Sunday on Tuesday and those who were arrested after Sunday on Wednesday, so that they will maximize that inconvenience. The people who have been in detention close to the 48 hours. If it was an issue of documentation and the state was interested in protecting the rights of those people, the state could have brought those people on Tuesday so that no person's rights would have been breached in relation to the 48-hour rule. But what we expect from the state is to provide a remedy for such persons whose rights have been infringed upon. First, the state should have released them on bail when immediately they got to know that they could not present them before court because of their own inability to work on their documentation before presenting them to court. That inconvenience should not occasion the people, and the state should be allowed to just go scot-free by saying that it was administrative inefficiency, such as making documents to present them to court. That's why their rights should be infringed upon. That justification is not admissible in the context of our constitutional human rights framework. So the state must provide adequate remedies for such persons whose rights have been infringed upon. And moving forward, where the state detains someone and for some reason cannot present the person within 48 hours, the constitution is clear. Release that person on bail, whether conditionally or unconditionally. Don't use administrative inefficiencies as your reason for keeping them and make it the justification for breaching their rights.
Very well. Thank you for joining us this evening. Noah Adamte joining us there, one of the lawyers of the protesters. Certainly more on that subsequently. You're watching News Tonight here on GHOne TV. Now it's 71 days to election 2024 and we remain your election hub. Let's take some election-related stories next. On Election Hub this evening, disqualified independent presidential aspirant Dr. Ni Amu Darko has called out the Electoral Commission over what he describes as shambolic performance of the Commission in managing electoral processes. Dr. Ni Amu Darko, together with 10 other candidates, were disqualified from contesting the 2024 presidential race due to various infractions in filing nomination forms. Addressing a press conference on his next line of action, he accused the Electoral Commission of peddling falsehood over his disqualification and hinted of heading to court to seek redress.
But I was expecting that GHOne would probably have moved above the mediocre standards that Charlotte Osei set there. But I can tell you today that if Charlotte Osei was a disaster, GHOne is a catastrophe. An absolute catastrophe. And I'm saying it and she will hear it. Absolute catastrophe. I mean, the play is so shambolic, there is no, it's not even funny. I mean, how on earth that if you are going to hold elections in December, then you do these things in September? Technically, you are rigging the system for the established parties, because what it means is that independent and small parties have only 2 months to campaign. What would have happened if we have had this process in June? So we have senseless people managing Ghana at all levels. If you are serious about your job, you should know that we should have done this at least 6 months, so that if somebody doesn't qualify, they better doesn't spend money. What he said were the reasons for my disqualification were lies, full stop. What they wrote in the letter to me was different from what she said at the press conference. So what am I going to do? This was really the comfort that I got from Psalm 94:15. justice will be found again in the courts. Justice will be found again in the courts, and all righteous people will support it. So we are going to seek justice in the courts.
Now, the Convention People's Party, CPP, is pledging to repeal portions of the 1992 Constitution that ban the use of marijuana. Although a recent bill allows for marijuana's industrial and medicinal purposes, recreational users remain excluded. Cannabis advocates have called the current law, which prescribes jail terms for consumers, draconian and a violation of human rights. However, on the campaign trail on Start Today, the CPP's running mate, lawyer Wayo Ghana Manti, stated that the law would be repealed if they win the December elections.
That is not an agenda. I've just told you about sentencing. I'm not talking about the law.
Okay.
The law about...
But I mean, if CPP gets the opportunity to rule, would you push for weed to be legalized?
Weed to be legalized, that would be the nation's decision. What did President Akufo-Addo say? He said LGBT...
If you get the chance to rule, that's what I'm asking. If the CPP gets a chance to rule...
No, we have not gotten there yet. But you see, today in Parliament...
You said it's possible.
No, today in Parliament, they have passed the the law for industrial and then what? Medicinal purposes. I didn't pass it. MPP government passed it. Akufo-Addo passed it. Babin passed it. Babin is NDC man. Akufo-Addo is MPP man. So NDC MPP, they have passed it. So it's not about CPP. But don't let us overstretch it. What I'm trying to let the citizens know that we will not incarcerate any Ghanaian youth. And I'm giving the justification. If we arrest a 25-year-old chap, we dump him for 10 years, he returns in 35 years. We have wasted 10 years of that. And me, if I'm a leader of this country, I'll not waste 10 years of my citizens who are youthful. We need those youthful energy as manpower. China is producing because they have people. Instead of going to incarcerate them, put them on the state farms, put them on the rails, because if you have more of them, we'll build more rail lines. You have more of them, we'll build more infrastructure. This is how to evolve the country.
Okay.
Now joining us is the CEO for Empire Agric Ghana Limited, Nana Kweku Agyeman. Good evening to you. Thanks for joining us here on News Tonight. Now, as you heard, the CPP has pledged not to incarcerate young people who are arrested in possession of cannabis when given the nod, or if given the nod, come December 7. What's your immediate reaction to this?
Well, good evening to you, first of all, and good evening to all your viewers. Well, my immediate reaction to it, I mean, it's nothing short of political gimmickry, isn't it? Look, the law as it stands already has taken a position whereby it won't incarcerate people who have been found to be in possession of negligible amounts of cannabis anyway, whether they're young or old. That law has been passed, and it's something that has basically changed the modus operandi of how the government and the system thinks. Whereas previously, people have been incarcerated and still incarcerated for small amounts of cannabis, up to 20 years in some instances. Now, the whole issue about cannabis is to try and establish why the person is a user, is trying to understand the person as opposed to placing the person behind bars. So this is already in force. And you see, I'm looking at his interview, and the issue of cannabis is much more complex than just saying, oh, we won't arrest and charge and incarcerate young youth.
Right.
We'll put them on state arms and we'll put them here and there. I mean, it's much more complex than that. And while they're trying to attract young people to vote for their party, I can tell them square in the face that it's not going to attract anybody more than they have already.
Very well. So you describe it as political gimmickry. Thank you for your time this evening. Thanks for joining us here on News Tonight. Nana Kweku Agyeman, CEO for Empire Agric Ghana Limited, on that issue. In other election-related news, founder and leader of the Ghana Freedom Party, GHOne, has taken a swipe at disqualified presidential candidates who questioned the basis of her approval after filing. According to the presidential candidate, she qualified because she properly filed for her filing form even without having formal education, while her so-called literate opponents could not. GHOne spoke on Kasapa FM.
I don't go any moment because inside every say one wine bet you defense them. Well, we know man, yeah, we did my tem. Tell me moment and I'm the tree casaba. after the one when the woman yanko sakrata moment me asai ama me ameni woman but me akosan a obi ati ase say sir what you enti say yanko aboa me ama hodene ama me sika to who ati me akochiri na ya san ama me a me denya me ase pa ma sabe nkata awie wasi nko ye income tax ma ye income tax na awie ma ye media ma ye ma be dia chire ma ye amp for 9 mati ya ni na me ya de sare ti enti so wa yi na de wasi nko ye no ma ye awie na me ba wo wase mbeka enti so wa gimi a wono wa ma yi afiri mo no won ta obi a o de me santa obi a o wo anya o de yi a.
Well, certainly much more comprehensive election-related coverage here on your Election Hub in the days ahead. That wraps up Election Hub for tonight.
Before your thumb touches the ballot sheet, you need to decide.
Why should you vote?
Who do you vote for?
How will the elections play out?
What do these candidates bring to the table?
And where will the shots be called?
That's where we come in. EIB Election Hub.
We bring you the finest coverage from all the 275 constituencies as all eyes watch the Parliament House.
The EIB Election Hub puts you in the center of the action, leading to the Jubilee House.
Not your regular programming.
Here is where Ghana decides. This is Ghana's choice.
The strong room for Ghana's vote is right here on EIB Election Hub 2024.
Maybe you know it, perhaps you've seen it.
But you've never seen the best till you see it on EIB Election Hub 2024.
EIB Election Hub. You're welcome back to News Tonight. Next, we've got business news. In business this evening, the Bank of Ghana has reduced the policy rates for commercial banks by 200 basis points, bringing it down from 29% to 27%. Addressing the media, the governor of the Bank of Ghana, Dr. Ernest Addison, explained that macroeconomic conditions have generally improved, with headline inflation easing and growth picking up, despite tight monetary conditions supporting the disinflation process. The committee's latest forecast indicates that inflation is expected to continue easing towards the target range of 13 to 17% by the end of the year. The committee assesses the rates to inflation outlook as fairly balanced, leading to the decision to lower the rates to 27%.
Assessment of the committee, preliminary data since the last MPC meeting held in July 2024 indicates that macroeconomic conditions have generally improved. Headline inflation has eased and growth has picked up. Fiscal policy implementation has been robust, providing impulse that is supportive of growth, while monetary conditions have remained tight and supportive of the disinflation process. Headline inflation since the first quarter has declined for the fifth consecutive month by 5.4 percentage points. Core inflation has also declined sharply over the same comparative period by 6.9 percentage points. These trends suggest that the disinflation process is on course. The latest forecast showed that the inflation will continue to ease towards the range target of 13 to 17% for the year and steadily track back towards the medium-term target of 6 to 10% by the end of 2025, bearing unanticipated shocks. At the current juncture, the committee judged the rates to inflation outlook as fairly balanced. Given these considerations, the committee decided to lower the monetary policy rate by 200 basis points to 27%. Thank you.
Well, let's stay on this. Joining us via Zoom for more on this is Professor Patrick Esuming, a lecturer at the University of Ghana Business School. Good evening to you. Thank you for joining us here on News Tonight. Now, what's your assessment of this 200 basis point reduction in the lending rates as explained by the governor?
Good evening to both. Thanks for having me. I think I was quite surprised to see that the policy rate will come down,
right,
and especially by 200 basis points. The governor notes that the disinflation has continued, and that is right. But we know that the inflation rate is still way above our medium-term target. Even if we ended the year in the 17 range he's talking about, it's still way above the target. And also considering the fact that the economy, even without the policy rate cut, appears to be performing better than expected, as the data I presented showed. I think overall it was a little surprising. Perhaps the fact that other central banks have been cutting their rates. Earlier this week, the US Federal Reserve also cut their rates. So I think perhaps all of those influenced the decision, but I have to say I was quite surprised, and also by the magnitude of the reduction.
Right. Well, what sort, were you surprised by a reduction at all, or by the magnitude? Is it by both, or would you have expected, and how much of a reduction would you have expected as opposed to 200 basis points? Looking at the factors you just highlighted.
I thought that, it could have stayed the rate and observed a little bit. Even if there was going to be a cut, I didn't expect 200 basis point cuts. So I think both kind of surprised me. The reduction but more importantly, the quantum of the reduction. Right. I think you would think that there will be a gradual reduction, and then we wait and observe, and then decide whether further reduction is warranted.
Right.
But they decided that it's time to cut by 200 basis points. So let's hope and wait and see and hope that's the right decision.
Absolutely. Now, with that being said, do you foresee a sustained downward trend within the rest of the year? Is there a possibility for there to be some sudden increase, although you highlight that this is quite a large reduction?
Yeah, I think it's not a great thing for central bankers to change and then quickly reverse course. That's not a good signal. If central banks behave like that, then I think the markets will be a little concerned.
All right.
So we see. I mean, the projection is that the disinflation might continue, but I think the currency is still under pressure. It appears that it is using the introduction of the Ghana gold coins to kind of support the currency a little bit. Otherwise, when the currency is depreciating like that, regardless of the fact that the US has cut its interest rates, you still expect that the policy rate will be maintained. So it appears that it's tackling the issue of the currency with the introduction of the gold coins, and then hoping that the currency, the rate of inflation will continue on the steady path. So I'm not expecting that at the next meeting there will be any policy reversal by way of an increment. No, not at all.
Very briefly, with that being said, you highlighted the introduction of the Ghana gold coins to support the economy. How much of an impact do you foresee that its introduction is likely to have?
Yeah, I think we have to wait and see. You get the sense that the cedi stability requires a lot more fundamental measures than introduction of a gold coin. So it depends on how the public sees it. If the public have the confidence in these gold coins, at the moment gold prices are increasing a lot. So it means that if you bought a gold coin, it will help. But we'll see how the market will buy into it and how liquid it will be. Because if people need to transact, then we see how liquid it is, how easy they can sell off these gold coins and get the stable liquidity. I don't think that its impact in terms of stability of the currency will be much. I think the currency's problems are more fundamental than just introducing an additional investment to like this.
Very well. Thank you so much for the insights this evening. Professor Patrick Isuming, lecturer at the University of Ghana Business School, joining us there. Now, talking about the introduction of the gold coin, the Bank of Ghana is set to launch the Ghana gold coin, which is crafted from locally sourced Dura gold refined to 99.99% purity. Addressing the media, Governor of the Bank of Ghana, Dr. Ernest Addison, announced that the coin will be issued and guaranteed by the central bank in 3 denominations: 1 ounce, half ounce, and quarter ounce, catering to various investment needs. The governor stated that the gold coin will help the central bank absorb excess liquidity in the banking sector, supplementing the use of Bank of Ghana bills and overnight deposits for liquidity management. He further added that the coin will be available in commercial banks within 2 weeks, with prices to be published on the Bank of Ghana's platforms.
Launch our new Ghana gold coin, which is a development which we think is important and reflects a commitment from the central bank to deepen our financial markets by offering other avenues for savers to invest. Everybody is getting up, rushing to buy dollar to save and put under pillows. You don't need to do that if you have options. Now, if you don't buy dollars, you go and buy treasury bills or bonds. We are giving you an opportunity from the domestic gold purchasing program to also buy gold. This is what we are trying to launch now, and we call it the Ghana gold coin. The Ghana gold coin is manufactured from Dori gold, dug out of Ghana, which has been refined to 99.99% purity. It is issued and guaranteed by the Bank of Ghana. It will be available in 3 different units. That is the 1 ounce coin, the half ounce coin, and the quarter ounce coin. to suit different investment needs. Each coin has the Ghana coat of arms in front and the Independence Arch at the back. The packing of the gold coin
Well, that's all the business news we've got for you this evening. Stay with us on News Tonight. More news shortly. Health-related stories now. Imagine a world where common infections become untreatable and life-saving medicines no longer work. That's the reality leaders at the United Nations General Assembly are fighting to prevent. With millions of lives lost each year due to drug-resistant infections, countries are now pledging bold steps to turn the tide and save millions more by 2030. My colleague Ridwan Karim Dini Osman has this report from New York.
Antimicrobial resistance, or AMR, occurs when pathogens like bacteria and fungi develop the ability to resist the medicines meant to eliminate them. The World Health Organization has identified AMR as one of the top global public health threats, largely driven by the overuse and misuse of antimicrobials in humans, animals, and plants, creating resistant strains of dangerous pathogens. For Gabriela Balasa, who has lived with cystic fibrosis her entire life, antibiotics are more than just medicine. They are a lifeline. However, addressing the 79th United Nations General Assembly, she shares a terrifying moment when the antibiotics stopped working, leaving her vulnerable to dangerous infections.
In 2019, I faced the most severe drug-resistant infection that I've had. My doctors had prescribed me the strongest antibiotics that we have available to us today, colistin. But after weeks of treatment, I was not having any relief in my symptoms or improvement. I was coughing endlessly. I was using supplemental oxygen all the time. I was unable to breathe walking just a few feet, and my lung function was 18%. I was a shell of an existence. The bacteria were stronger than the strongest antibiotics that we have. I felt helpless, defeated, and I didn't know if I was going to survive. Fortunately, I did have the opportunity to try an experimental treatment called phage therapy, which helped to treat that acute infection I was facing.
She was lucky, but for millions of others, there is no second chance. In 2019 alone, antimicrobial resistance directly caused 1.27 million deaths and contributed to nearly 5 million more. A recent study in The Lancet projects that from 2025 to 2050, over 39 million people could die from infections caused by resistant bacteria. The World Bank warns that AMR could add up to $1 trillion in healthcare costs by 2050. Director General of the World Health Organization, Dr. Tedros Adhanom Ghebreyesus, warns of severe consequences if the world fails to act quickly.
We're facing an alarmingly dry pipeline for new antibiotics. The irony of AMR is that it's fueled by the overuse of antibiotics. And yet, more people die from lack of access to antibiotics.
Executive Director of the UN Environment Programme, Inge Anderson, says there is an urgent need to tackle antimicrobial pollution and the environmental factors that contribute to the spread of resistance.
Prevention is key to stop antimicrobials, and AMR is leaking into our environment from municipal wastewater, from municipal waste, as well as wastewater, from pharmaceutical production, from hospitals, from farms that overuse and intensify crop production sprayed with antimicrobials. Around 56% of wastewater released into the environment has little or no treatment, and it is crucial to integrate water management, water sanitation and hygiene.
In response, global leaders at the 79th UN General Assembly have approved a political declaration to reduce deaths from bacterial AMR by 10% by 2030. The plan also includes sustainable national financing and a $100 million fund to help at least 60% of countries implement AMR action plans by 2030.
The Food and Agriculture Organization, alongside the WHO, the UN Environment Programme, and the World Organization for Animal Health, supports this declaration, emphasizing a One Health approach which connects human, animal, and environmental health. But the real challenge now is action. The world will be watching to see if leaders will follow through on these critical targets to protect future generations. From the UN headquarters in New York, I am Ridwan Karim Dini Osman, reporting for GHOne News.
You're watching News Tonight here on GHOne TV. Do stay with us. We bring you more news shortly.
GHOne OV van has been one of the best vans I've used personally in this country. It runs a system where we are able to run on Dante to be able to do our broadcast mixed well also from this van.
I've used this OB van for quite a number of big productions, i.e. 3 music awards, the late President Rollis' state funeral, Emmys Africa Awards, and a number of them.
My experience with the GHOne van has been the state of the art equipment they have. Personal experience is you can use it for both indoor and outdoor, all events, conferencing, like anything you need a van to work for you, GHOne provides it.
My experience with the van has been very good. Why? Because it has a number of facilities that I may not get in other vans. You know, the van has a very wide bench that can accommodate all my technical crew, ICCU, switcher, graphics, CG, and all of that. And then it also has a studio, a green room studio that comes with TriCaster. So if you want somebody to do commentary on a live event, you can put that presenter who's in that studio as well and get that running.
To give an experience to our audience, we're also watching on TVs and online. Work with an Exo technology system, which makes your video mixing with Panasonic cameras, like a lot of other stuff in terms of content you need to get also for your live.
So welcome on to sports, where the Ghana Premier League enters another big weekend as Nations FC is game with Hearts of Oak and Brekum Chelsea's battle. Record call headlines, some exciting matches to be played across the country on match day 4.
I prefer the GHOne van to a lot of other vans I've used, or even doing my own setup on a tabletop setup. Because on a production, you see a number of people in the van. And so if you have a very small van, it means that it's going to be choked, and that will affect the creativity as well. The price has been discounted as well to accommodate varied budgets. And so no matter the budget you have, I understand you can have the truck and do business with it.
It looks huge, but very affordable. Cost is really, really affordable. My experience with it, EMI Awards last year, super excellent. Try it, call them, and I'm going to give you the best of price. Really affordable.
Welcome back. Let's still stay a bit on the local from where coach of Kotoko, Prosper Natalie, has backed his players to go out and express themselves in a game against Brekum Chelsea this weekend. Kotoko currently are lying on some 4 points now, and of course take on Chelsea in their third game of the season.
Gradually integrate them into the team. We should know when to bring them on board. So at the moment, some of them are training with the first team, and then they are very comfortable. We are letting them know that they need to express themselves. They should express themselves, make all the mistakes that they can make. We are there as coaches to support them, to correct their errors. You know, the game is the best teacher. To correct errors in the game, let the players play and play and play and play, and the errors will be correct.
And that's it for sports. Up next is international news.
On the international front, British monarch King Charles said he and his consort Camilla are deeply saddened over the death of British film veteran Dame Maggie Smith. British Prime Minister, winning actress, a true national treasure, and fellow Downton Abbey actor Hugh Bonneville said she was a true legend of her generation, with a sharp eye, sharp wit, and formidable talent. A statement from Dame Maggie's son said she died peacefully in hospital on Friday morning at the age of 89. And on that note, we draw the curtains on News Tonight this evening. As always, do visit our website, starfm.com.gh, for lots more local and international stories. It was produced by my colleague Eko Boache, directed by Daniel. I'm Natalie Fort. Have a restful weekend.
GHOne OV van has been one of the best vans I've used personally in this country. It runs a system where we are able to run on Dante to be able to do our broadcast mixed well also from this van.
I've used this OB van for quite a number of big productions, i.e. 3 music awards, the late President Rollis' state funeral, Emmys Africa Awards, and a number of them.
My experience with the GHOne van has been the state of the art equipment they have. Personal experience is you can use it for both indoor and outdoor, all events, conferencing, like anything you need a van to work for you, GHOne provides it.
My experience with the van has been very good. Why? Because it has a number of facilities that I may not get in other vans. You know, the van has a very wide bench that can accommodate all my technical crew. ICCU, switcher, graphics, CG, and all of that. And then it also has a studio, a green room studio that comes with TriCaster. So if you want somebody to do commentary on a live event, you can put that presenter who's in that studio as well and get that running.
To give an experience to our audience, we're also watching on TVs and online. Work with an Exo technology system, which makes your video mixing with Panasonic cameras, like a lot of other stuff in terms of content you need to get also for your live broadcasts.
I prefer the GHOne van to a lot of other vans I've used, or even doing my own setup on a tabletop setup. Because on a production you see a number of people in the van. And so if you have a very small van, it means that it's going to be choked, and that will affect the creativity as well. The price has been discounted as well to accommodate varied budgets. And so no matter the budget you have, I understand you can have the truck and do business with it.
It looks huge, but very affordable. Cost is really, really affordable. My experience with this EMI Awards last year, super excellent. Try it, call them, and I'm going to give you the best of price. Really affordable.